Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Eddie Marcus here. This morning, I'd like to start by asking the question: is there anyone amongst this audience, or any American, or any people on earth that is willing to support God's way of life for human beings on earth if it allows them to have their needs, wants, and desires met? If it would permit them to live in peace and be prosperous and free, joyous and happy, and allow them to live their dreams. Is there one amongst the human race that would support God's way if it had you in a position to suffer for nothing? It included but not limited to food, clothing, shelter, education, healthcare, transportation, infrastructure, and really anything that's made by the hands of man. Is there anyone amongst the human race that would support God's way, which involves every human being on earth experiencing the kind of life that I just mentioned? And for those of you who don't think it's possible and would want a little more evidence, then I would add to that that the people who benefit from the stuff that I just said are the people who engage themselves in the process of making the stuff that they're going to share in. Yet the role that they play is the role that gives them their greatest joy in playing it. And the result is similar to heaven on earth. Is there any American? Is there any human being on earth, including Christians and people of other faiths? Is there any amongst you that would support God's way of human beings experiencing life on earth in relationship to what I just described to you? Think about it for a moment. What about you? You know, some people talk about living a life where you get a chance to make things right, that the process doesn't end until you make it right. Like reincarnation, I think that's how they refer to it. You come and you live a certain time and grow or not, and you come back to finish the process, not necessarily as you left. You know, some people believe that if you live a good life, you might come back maybe as an eagle. You live a rough life, you might come back as a cobra, slithering through the weeds and through the musk. Oof, oof. Or you might come back as a hyena out there attacking other animals. Or you might just come back as a croc. You never know. But they say, I don't have any real information from God that I know of that says you reap what you sow. That if you are on this earth and you causing pain and suffering, and you're a hater, a racist, and a bigot, you're lying, cheating, telling what. If you engage yourself in the maturing of these kinds of things, then that's what you might experience, these cobras and stuff. But I have no understanding of that, because even if that was the case, my understanding is that even the snakes have to be saved if they weren't made to be snakes. If you were made to be a snake, you're going to be a snake. Well, anyway, the idea is that we live in a society where the kind of things that I just got to explain to you have not materialized. And so we speak of liberation. we talk about liberation. And when we speak of liberation, it comes to, to free you from the dictates of the systems of the world. You know, you might be a liar, you might be a thief, you might be a crook, a hater, a racist, and a bigot, but you weren't born that way. So, having come to this earth as a material structure, you were shaped and formed by that which you was exposed to represent what you reflect in the society today. But that is not what you were made to be. And love, as I have found love to be, is to not give up on even the worst of thee. If it's gotten everybody else and the only thing you see is the worst thing that could possibly exist, love looks at it and say, that's my challenge. That's my job. To save you from you. And love does that. Whether it's successful or not, it and when they say to save you from the systems, that means there are no systems that's designed by human beings as it is that would produce what I just got through explaining to you. You see, what I just got through explaining to you actually results in, as we have thought out heaven to be, heaven actually materialized from the result of these actions. Nothing that men talk about could do that. Because one thing, men can't talk about anything progressive that has to do with society that is absent money or its equivalent. Ain't no money in heaven. That program I just got to explain to you, you heard nothing about money. Not one word about money. But when we think about and talk about faith, I want you to understand that liberation actually requires an awful lot of faith, at least from the ones who come to liberate you. They got no faith. But for you who are contemplating, you need faith to exercise anything that comes with liberation. And when I say you need faith, I know many of you say, you got it. You think you have it. But let me ask you this. Faith is like, just give you an example. It's like Russian roulette. Faith is like Russian roulette. It's like taking a gun, putting a bullet in the cartridge and flipping it around, putting it in your hand on the trigger, putting it to your head. And the intent is to pull the trigger, knowing that you will survive, knowing that that bullet will not come out, knowing, I'm not talking about hoping that it won't come out. I'm not talking about guessing that it won't come out. I'm talking about knowing it won't come out. In other words, you take a gun, put the bullet in it, flip that thing through, put it in there, and then go on about your business. Now, to do that requires some faith. How many of you think you would be able to do something like that with your life? How many? Not many of you, huh? Well, see, that's what faith is like. It means doing and expecting an outcome that perhaps you're the only one expect it to happen. Are you the only one can see it? Are you the only one that believe in it? And you take the necessary act that would cause something that seemed to be out of the ordinary to happen. Well, if you can master God's plan, it tells me that you have learned the secrets of life, because it then is no longer like Russian roulette, because you know the outcome. Now, let me give you another example. In America, they have blamed racism and hatred and bigotry, has claimed that America is not as great as it could be because of DEI, higher. Basically saying that people are not, you in a position not because you merit it, but some other stuff been set up that gave you aid. And now you're in that position, not because you're the best. And so they bring in a president who represents all of that, those lies and those deceptions. And they bring in one of the richest men. They say, I don't know for sure, but they say he's one of the richest men on earth. Well, they don't say he's one of the richest men. They say he's the richest man. The richest man connected with a man who wants to be the greatest man on earth. You put them two together. Woo! Well, anyway, you got the richest man on earth. And what can they do for you? What? I mean, seriously, what can they do for you? They represent really the worst evil you can imagine. Now, the possibility could exist for the best thing to happen. But the best thing would include, I think, what some of you might have heard in scripture where a young man wanted to be saved. And the master told him to go and sell everything he got, or take everything he got, all of his safety stuff, his wealth, and give it to the poor. You know what happened to that. Well, with this DEI, what they were trying to say, got these positions for nothing. And so this man comes in and getting rid of all of these people. Not because they weren't performing, but because they represented something else. What? They represented something that was rejected according to this group that were in power. And so they got rid of them and supposedly replaced them with those who merit it. Well, you realize that the merit had nothing to do with knowledge. The merit had something to do with racism. The merit had something to do with hypocrisy, bigotry. That's what the merit had something to do with. Because they brought in some misfits. Everybody that got kicked out who handled their positions quite well, replaced by people who couldn't handle it at all. Planes falling out of the sky, people losing their jobs, poverty going crazy, you name it. Well, you know it's true. What you don't know is what I shared with you. And in order for you to go that way, means you got to have faith. And that faith to be successful must be like Russian roulette. Taking a gun, loading it, drawing it to your head right fast, pulling the trigger right fast because you know it's going to be okay. Is that you?